In this video, I'll show you how to animate like Lovable. We'll cover smooth animations, animated gradients, simple 3D techniques, and how to apply them in your own projects. Okay, so we start off with adding a text layer. Let's just type it out. And align it. Okay. We can change its color to black. Alright, so to get this similar shading that we have over here, we're going to create a shape layer. Go to effects, let's add some fastbox blur to it, and crank that up to 20. Let's also apply this effect so we can set the shape layer to the text layer. Let's move the shape layer down. Yeah. Maybe we can increase the blur radius to about 30. Let's rename the shape layer to gradient. Alright, looks pretty good. To have some contrast, let's create a solid layer. Name it background and put it at the back. Now let's grab the fill effect. And take its color. We can also play around with the opacity of the gradient. Let's turn it down to maybe around 30. Yeah, that's 35. Looks pretty fine. Let's move it up a little bit. And change its color to something pinkish, like the reference. Alright, looks pretty good. Looks pretty decent. Let's create a null object. So new, null. Let's name this text controller. Text control 01. And let's change the color of the text and the gradient. Let's just color everything in our timeline. And then we're going to parent this to the null. Keyframe the scale. We're going to scale it from one size, make it smaller. Let's check how much they scaled it down on the reference. Okay. Scale it down even more. That should be alright. Okay. Let's easy ease the keyframes for the scaling, and then click keyframe velocity and just put 100 to 50. Now click P. Now we're going to animate the position. Let's move it to the left a little bit. switch off the reference. Let's see what that looks like. Okay. Highlight it, right click, keyframe assistant, easy ease. Right click, keyframe velocity, 100 to 50. 150. That's a bit snappy, but it's alright for now. We can adjust the positioning of the keyframes until we get the look that we want. Let's actually try different values. You can try 65 by 65, 65, 65, 150, 50, 100. So basically, typing in influence values is the same as just using the graph editor, but I just prefer that. Okay, let's duplicate the text in the gradient. Let's adjust the position. And we have to change our layer to the second layer and the text. All right. Select these two, duplicate them again. Do the same thing here. We can also change the scale and the position of the gradient over each word. Okay, that looks pretty good. Let's change the colors of the text and gradients just so low. Okay, so now we're going to create a new null object to control the text and gradient. For each word, we can create a new one entirely for each specific word if you want to have more control over the animations. So let's parent that to text control 2. Click P. Want the animation to stop around here. Then it's around here. In should just be coming in like that. Okay. Easy ease. 150. Let's cut this so it shows up exactly on this one. Let's hide this so we can see what these two look like. The timing is a bit off, so we can just move the whole thing to the left a little bit. Also a bit off. Let's move it to the right a little. Keyframe velocity, 100 to 0. so it moves faster without a pause. Yep. So 150 is different from 100 and 0. You can just play around with the values and you'll get different looks. Okay, this looks pretty good. Let's just create a new null object. And we can parent this. Okay. We're just going to copy the keyframes from text control 2 and paste them onto the third word. So now they all slide in like that with this smooth looking animation. So now we want to censor the whole sentence. Let's create a new null object. All text control. Select all these null objects. Parent them to all text control. And now we can just adjust their position and stuff. Looks pretty neat. Let's see what it looks like when you animate. Okay, let's keyframe the scale right here. We're gonna animate that scale. This is looking pretty neat. Okay. But the animation ends around here. So we're just gonna select everything, Control-Shift-D, delete all of that stuff. And we need to, that's where the transition is going to start basically from that point onwards. So just click new, null object. We can add some extra movement by taking our old text control null object and connecting it to another null object. We can animate the scale. $150. So at the beginning it zooms a little faster. We can do the same on, let's rename it to all text control 2. You can add more movement if you don't think it's fast enough or smooth enough or something. Okay, so now we're moving on to the gradient animation. Let's go to layer, new shape layer, and let's click add rectangle, add fill. All right, we can drag this to the bottom just above our reference and background, and we're going to adjust its size. So let's make it bigger. We're also going to adjust its roundness. So just make that big, maybe not that big. we'll rename it gradient transition. Okay. I'm going to change its color to white, and then I'm going to duplicate the background that we have. And we're going to change the background to black. Okay. Let's go to effects. And we're going to blur this shape. Okay. So when we're blurring it, we should try to get a lot of contrast. This part that's dark is the part that we're going to add color to. So doing it this way is pretty convenient for me because I just need to play around with the size of the shape, and that changes how much color we have on the screen. So it just makes my job a bit faster. Just keyframe this easy ease. We have the gradient come in. Let's put 100 to 50. That looks okay. Let's create an adjustment layer, drag it, place it above our shape and background. And let's name this gradient, grain and noise. Grain and color. Okay, so from effects and presets, I already have this effect, but it's basically just a CC toner with selected colors and a noise HLS effect. CC toner that we applied basically applies these colors onto the different shades that we are getting from the blurred shape and the background. So we can play around with it and use different types of blur. We can use fastbox blur, 30, make it blur even more. Remove this, turn it up, and you see the colors change. You can play around with the colors the more you adjust the blur, basically. Okay, so what I've done is I've basically animated the size, the scale of the shape, and the blur radius. When you animate the blur radius, you can change its value to make your colors contrast differently. They can either be much more visible or less visible. Okay, so now we're going to animate the coolest part, transition. What we're going to do first is we're going to drag in this logo composition. If you want to use the exact same logo that I used, you can grab it in my Discord channel. The link is in the description. So we'll start off by scaling this logo down. Let's scale it down to about 3. And we're going to create a shape layer and rename it to screen. Okay. Let's mess around with the size of the screen. Let's say 1080. Just scale this down. So make it a bit wider. And we're going to increase the roundness to about 15. Okay, awesome. Now let's pre-compose the screen. Okay. and let's bring the screen up to the right. We want the logo to be visible. Something like here. It's basically the area where our transition is going to transition to. Okay. Okay, this looks pretty good. New, no object. So this is the logo plus screen controller. No object is going to be controlling both of them. Okay. Nice. So let's scale this back to 100. Let's check the reference. Okay. Google Screen Controller. What we're going to do is we're going to adjust the scale. Let's scale it up a bit more. Okay. It's keyframe assistant, easy ease, keyframe velocity 150. Okay, that's okay. The screen's not going to come in instantly, so we can move it forward a bit. We can play around with the graph values. That looks pretty neat. Now let's turn everything into 3D. Let's change the screen's position a bit. Move it, let's put 1 so that it doesn't glitch. It shouldn't be on the exact same layer as logo. So exact same position as logo. Okay, so now we're going to animate the logo screen controller. It will animate its position. Change it, adjust it. Keyframe assistant, easy ease. Keyframe velocity 65. This 65 was pretty cool. can play around with the positioning of your keyframes. When you have a general movement, you can make the overall look smoother by just playing around with the values. Okay, well, after playing around with the keyframes, adjusting the values, this is what I ended up with. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to create a shape layer. Let's name it background. And let's drag it underneath the logo. This is going to be the background animation that happens when the transition is occurring as well. So let's rotate it, scale it up. And we're going to keyframe the position from here to down here. So it's supposed to look like this in the reference, as you can see. So let's take the color from the button. That's the color that we're going to use for the background. And the transition, like this. It's easy. Then we get something like this. Okay, let's use that toner thing again. Then we get something like this. But now we're gonna put blur on the transition shape. $800, that looks pretty okay. We can just color the shape, obviously, but I want the exact colors, so I just used CC toner. Okay, that looks pretty nice. Okay, this starts here, so we're gonna cut these shapes to enter right here. And let's see what it looks like. It's looking pretty good. Okay. Now what we need to do, let's cut it from here so we can see the screen. So what we're going to do is we're going to start drawing shapes on top of our logo. Let's go to transition, grab one of these colors, copy it, logo, and then we're going to paste it on the shape. Go to effects, fast box blur, and let's crank this up. Let's try 20, maybe 25. Okay. Just create a solid background so we can see the contrast. And let's name this gradient 1. Let's go to effects and presets. Grab this. And let's choose 2. Okay, so now our colors are showing on the logo and we can adjust this as we see fit. Just duplicate this, move it to another position, and we can keep on doing this and decorating our logo. So let's check out the reference. There's a big one on the top right and something in the middle and at the bottom. So just move this to the middle and increase its blur radius. And then we duplicate the shape again. Bring it to the bottom here. Rotate it a bit. Maybe we can reduce the blur radius. Okay. Just play around with the blur values until you get something that you want. After adding a couple, this is what I ended up with. Okay. Let's hide the reference. I'm going to switch the background off. Okay. So this is what we have so far. It's looking pretty good. So let's animate the rotation of the logo, just like in the video. It doesn't just enter, it rotates into the scene. So we keyframe this and then put easy ease. We can play around with the logo screen controller values. Okay, so after adjusting the keyframes for a while, this is what we ended up with. Something like this. Now what we're going to do is we're going to turn background into a 3D layer, and we're going to parent it to logo screen controller as well. To turn it into a button, we can simply change its roundness, its size, make those types of adjustments. Okay, so we can animate. Okay, so we can animate its scale. Okay, this looks pretty good. Now let's go to this transition. What we want to do is we want to set it to background so that it only shows up inside of the button like this. Yep. Let's move the position of the button down. Let's position it properly. Okay, awesome. Put that to 150. That looks awesome. Okay, so now let's create another shape layer. Let's call this screen. Bring it underneath these. Turn it into a 3D layer. And we adjust its size and roundness. Okay. Okay, let's make screen track local screen controller. And then we scale it up. Scale it up a little more. Position it exactly like in the reference. No, too much. Okay, up a bit. Yep. Okay. Let's see what that looks like. Crop it here. But we need to remember to put screen back a bit. P1, so it's not on the same layer. Looking great. Okay. Now let's turn reference up. We're just going to grab the color there. Okay, awesome. Nice. And then hide that. Let's create a new solid, call it background. Add 4 color gradient to it. Let's make this white. Let's make this other corner white. Whitish, yellowish. Do the same here. Make this. Then we can just grab these two colors from the reference. This. Okay, looks pretty good. Let's add some text. Get it up. Maybe. We play around with its position, its X and Y position. Yep. So put it just above button. Move it to the right a bit. And we're going to fade these highlights. Mark the opacity. We'll put 0. Awesome. Good stuff. Yes, this is looking pretty good. And that's it. That's pretty much it for this video. Stay tuned for more edits. I'm going to continue this. This is only part 1. Part 2, I'll be showing you different techniques that your Lovable uses a lot as well. Alright, thanks a lot for sticking around, guys.